welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I am so thrilled to have on the show Coach A.M. Williams. And he is a results coach who specializes in helping experts transform their expertise into high leveraged offers. And if you're watching the video, you can see in the background his poster there that says leverage without limits. And I love that. He's the owner of A.M. Williams Coaching Company, LLC, and has personally coached and trained numerous executives, lawyers, doctors, recording artists, and other coaches and consultants over the past 10 years from a bed-bound state. He was diagnosed with incomplete paraplegia, which is extreme weakness in the legs. And Coach has discovered the gift of challenges and has mastered the art of transforming adversity into one's greatest challenge. And he's also one of the best-selling authors of the book Resilience, Turning Setbacks into Comebacks, with Kyle Wilson, who was Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner. His Yes Go radio show is on bsrnradio.com and is syndicated across 300 radio stations and reaches international listeners across the UK and North America each month. And Coach A.M.'s magnificent obsession is helping high-performing professionals and entrepreneurs use leverage to create the life they want. So welcome to the show, Coach.
Hello, and great to be here, Kim.
So I want to give you lots of time to share your story because I think it is so powerful. So do a quick introduction and then tell us what happened in your life.
Well, in 1999, I was a professional banker. As I say in the book, life seemed sweet. I had a great banking career. It was in top 5% of our sales. Life was it was wonderful. It was awesome. And I was working out at the time, and I had thought I had pulled a muscle in my groin from working out. So I went to the doctor to go check it out and see what was going on. And one test turned into another test, into another test, into another test, and I started getting worried. Mm-hmm. And like, Doc, what's going on? And he looked at me and he was saying, I was going to ask you the same question. And I knew we were in trouble then. So after running a couple of tests, he said, sir, you got cysts on your spine and we need to operate immediately.
Oh, no.
My life was totally disrupted. He said, if we don't get these cysts removed off your spine, it could be deadly. So wow. At that point, here I am thinking I just pulled a muscle in the groin, and here he tells me now I got to have surgery that could literally impact my mortality. So like, if I don't have it, it could be deadly for me not to remove it. So they immediately admitted me into the hospital. And within a couple of days, I ended up having a surgery, 8-hour surgery, in which they removed one cyst off my spine in one area, T8 area, and then the T12 had set behind the spinal column, so they couldn't remove it. And they had to put a shunt in it to drain it. Little did I know, this little visit, this would turn into a surgery, which would then lead to a life of orientations with things I never knew existed. After the surgery was over, they had me to do a couple of days of therapy and sent me home. Just sent me home. So here at this point, I'm thinking I'm on top of the world. I beat this thing. And I got things going. But however, I had to really retrain myself on walking on different surfaces and all of that. But because I wasn't doing it right. And I think this is an important lesson because I was just doing what I've always done. And I didn't learn how to do it the right way. I created more damage than I did good. And so the previous year, the next year, actually, we had an ice storm. And I found myself standing on a sheet of ice and my legs were just spreading apart. Oh. I didn't have the hip strength I didn't have the hip strength to keep them together. And I was like wondering what in the world was going on with me. Just fortunate enough, my brother was coming by my office to see how I was doing. And so he caught me in the parking lot standing there. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, man, I need your help. I am splitting and I can't stop. So he came along. God sent him along at that time to help me get myself gathered and standing again. And I went in and told them what was going on. And I started feeling another tingle again. And the next day when I was trying to drive into work, actually, I lost feeling in my leg behind the wheel of a car.
Oh, no.
Coming off of a side street before I went onto the highway. Because it was snowing, I wasn't driving fast at all. So when the feeling went out, I was coasting probably somewhere around 20, 25 miles an hour. Fortunate enough, again, I was able to maneuver my car to turn around and go back into my parking lot and park the car and say, listen, I got to have some help. I got to go to my doctor. We rushed, immediately went back over to the surgeon. And from the moment they saw me walk in, they said something's wrong. His gait is off completely.
Yeah.
So we went round 2 and had another surgery. He told me the shunt had came out. And so they needed to replace it. Well, I went through the first one. I'm like, okay, well, we can do that. And I'm feeling pretty immortal because I'm probably at this age about 28, 29 years old, making about $75K a year. So I'm like, hey, you know what? We're pretty good. And after this, they had this surgery. They asked me to move my legs. I couldn't do it. They asked me to move my feet. I couldn't do it. They asked me to move my toes, wiggle my toes. I couldn't do it. And I just kept saying, what happened? What went wrong? What went wrong? And they couldn't. They looked at each other and they was like, I can't understand it. It was baffling to them too. Well, they had immediately diagnosed me quadriplegic. And then I raised my hands and I went, what? And it's clearly not quadriplegic. So at that point, they diagnosed me paraplegic. And then I moved my leg over and they was like, well, he's not paraplegic either. And so that's how they diagnosed me incomplete paraplegic, having extreme weakness in legs, because what I had to challenge with was getting back on my feet and standing for long. And the reason why that was so, because they said I had accumulated so much scarred tissue from doing it wrong, from not being trained on how to do something right, so that I could move to the next level. I had created so much scarred tissue there that when they actually had to go in to do the surgery, the amount of tissue they had to remove is what created the weakness in the legs.
No.
And so therefore, I was at that point, in a wheelchair, and I thought, I was like, okay, well, this is going to be awkward, but I didn't know there was a possibility I'd be in a wheelchair and didn't know what wheelchair living was like. I just said, okay, I just got to adjust and I got to do this. I didn't get down on myself. I didn't get in the dumps or whatever. I just, felt like I had to navigate my way through it. Little did I know, the second time I went into the hospital, I actually had accumulated MRSA in the operating room. But it lied in my system 3 years dormant, never came to the surface. However, it came to the surface 3 years later and exploded in my skin in 4 different places. So I had holes the size of softballs in me in 4 different places in my body. And that was worse than the surgery. And so that was the thing that almost wiped me out. That was the thing that literally almost wiped me out. And I had to spend the next 7 years going in and out of acute care facilities, CCU, ICU. I have mastered the U's in the hospital. And then acute care facilities, nursing homes. I did all of that. So my whole entire 30s were consumed with hospitals and acute care facilities and things of that nature. And I spent a lot of time in the hospital and a lot of time in a bed. And in that period of time, I kept hearing this voice saying something in your life could be leveraged. to create something that you want. Something in your life could be leveraged to create something that you want. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I I don't really know what that means, but what I am going to do with it is do something productive with my time. So while I'm in the hospital, I was reading books, I was studying material and things of that nature. And my now wife at the time, she was a friend of mine. She was giving me material on, different people, and I was listening to them speak, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what I want to do.
Yep.
And so it was training, motivational teaching, all that kind of stuff, personal, and I just fell in love with it. So I said, that's what I want to do. So I said, I got to find a way to start touching people. And I found out about online radio shows and podcasts and things of that nature. And I said, I'm going to do one. Well, I started doing it, learned how to do it. And after a couple of weeks of doing it, my doctors came into the room and told the nurses to put up a sign on my door that said, "Do not disturb, he's recording." I'm in the hospital, and I can't make this stuff up. The doctor told the nurses to put a sign on my door that said, "Do not disturb, he's recording." So I did it, and here I am. Like, now my hospital room is turning into my office because people are checking to see when it's okay to come in my room, and people are coming by and scheduling appointments with me so they can talk to me and all that. And so I'm navigating this whole process, and they're asking me when they're trying to coordinate my physical therapy on my schedule and everything else. I only say that to say, like, when you make up your mind about, what it is, and you're that passionate about doing something, the world will conform to you. It doesn't matter. Your circumstance and all that will conform to you. So I did that. And I was in therapy one day, and I was watching these guys, man. It's like, if you ever go to a physical therapy session, it will change your life, because you see people giving it 100% to do simple things like that we don't even think about. And it's like, I'm sitting in there like, yeah, man, do it. Like, I'm pushing them, and I'm excited. And somebody says, man, you'd be a great coach. You'd be an amazing coach. And I'm like, well, I played sports, but I'm not a coach. They're like, no, you never heard of a life coach? Well, you know me. As soon as he told me that, I went back to the tick. And then next thing, I found out about being a life coach and got certified as a life coach. And between the radio show and life coaching, people started calling in. And one day somebody called in from, like, Germany. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm touching somebody in Germany from this hospital bed. And people started calling in, and then they started emailing me and asking me advice and asking me what my coaching services and my rates. And I'm like, I don't know anything about rates, so they were asking me would I coach them. And I was like, sure, I'll coach them. So my coaching business started in the hospital. I had clients in the hospital, and my doctors were blown away. They were like, this guy has clients. Most people just come in here and they're just like watching the TV, and he's got clients. He's like running his business from his hospital bed. And so I did that. And ironically, my mind was never really completely on, though I was taking up to 14 medications a day, 2 IVs in my arm. I was coaching people. I was doing that. And so with that being the case, everything that was going on at the time, it was just so much, like, it was just mind blowing how it was all happening. And they ended up letting me go home. I got well enough to go home. And when I got home, I still had to be in a therapy bed because I had these massive holes, that they were trying to close up. And when I got home, they started closing up one by one. And the last 2 were like, the guests that never leave your house. They just wanted to stay around for a while. And I started getting frustrated with how long it was taking, like many people are in the pandemic right now, and they just want to get back outside and get back to life. And so I tried to navigate life with, still being wounded. And it was setting me back more than helping me. it was something about this process, like these were here to teach me something that I didn't get before. So I kept pushing my business. I kept working the radio show. I decided that clearly wasn't enough for me to do, obviously. So I decided to go back to college and get 3 degrees. And I'm still going back to school. Call me a glutton for punishment, but I was doing my business, my radio show, and now I have the degrees. And actually, I am getting my doctoral degree now. I'm doing my dissertation to get my doctorate degree. Thank you. In business, in management, and organizational leadership. So I'm working on that piece. But I ended up building a 6-figure coaching practice from a bedbound state, having a radio show that is now broadcasted internationally. And like I said, I've gotten to this place in my education. So it's really been crazy. But the lessons that I have learned in this process, the things that I've learned about me, the things I've learned about adversity, most people, they'll say, well, you know what, man, you've overcome a lot of adversity. I say, thank you. But let me give you a disclosure. I really haven't overcome any adversity. Really, what I've done is learn how to dance with it. I don't want it to leave. Like in many regards, it's like it's there to teach you something. So if you take it and you wrestle with it and you dance with it enough, it matures you in many ways. It challenges you the right way. It shows you that this is maybe the way you're doing it is not the way you should be doing it. You should be doing it a different way. So I wrestle with adversity and I dance with it so that it could teach me the things that I need to know. And so I honestly, where some people say, you know what, man, who wants to go through something all the time? It's like, it's not that I'm saying I want to go through something all the time. I just believe one of the biggest reasons why so many people don't succeed is because they're just not challenged. They you get to a place where you get in the zone and you feel like, oh man, like nothing can stop me. And you're like, you're almost floating and then something hits you. And, it's like disaster struck, when really what happened is you just are not, the biggest challenge they have is that they haven't been challenged. They don't know how to navigate that adversity.
Well, and I think that's so true. And I think, sometimes we think that the road to success and the things we want in life is just this really nice, straight upward road. And it's not. It's a very jagged road with ups and downs. And it's many times in the downs that you learn the lessons you need to be able to go back up again.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. I do have one question for you. So back in the beginning, you talked about these cysts on your spine. How did they get there? I've never heard of that before.
Honestly, the world will never know. Like in many cases, you have a car accident or something that takes place and that stuff forms. These things were hanging out. Who knows how long they were there? Like I have no idea, because I was going along in life and nothing ever triggered it. But all of a sudden I started realizing I would be walking down the hall, and one side of the hall, and before I got to the other end, I was on the other side. Like I would find a way to veer, and it was the craziest thing, that was happening. But it was strange. All I know is that this at first seemed like the plot of my demise.
Yes.
Little did I know it would be the greatest gift. It was like, it was because in this process, you encounter things like you didn't even know existed. Like I didn't know what the life of a person, a person with a disability was, but having gotten into it and seeing the challenges myself, I'm like, no, that's not right. No, that's not okay. You can't just tell people they're just disabled. Like if you understood what being disabled meant, it's like somebody pulled a battery out of a watch and you couldn't operate or something. And that's not the kind of people I've met since I've encountered disability. These people, man, they give it everything they got. I seen a guy with brain injury write a business plan. It's just that there's an incredible amount of talent and skills and giftedness and resilience in persons with disabilities. And these are individuals that don't look for handouts. They look for hand-ins. They want to find a way to create a meaningful contribution in life. And I just don't think we pay enough attention
No, we don't.
to this group, and or really give them the chance and opportunity they deserve. And having become a person with disability, I'm definitely going to do my part to make sure that, you know, wherever I can advocate or do something. But the biggest part is just being a model, somebody who had this condition and moved on and done something with it.
Have you ever met Unstoppable Tracy Schmidt?
No.
Oh, you've got to look her up. You're going to love her story. If I remember correctly, I think she might have one hand, but either she has no hands and no feet and only partial arms and legs, or she might have one hand. But you got to check her out. She will inspire you, because her story is a lot like yours. Like, she never lets anything stop her. And as you were telling me that story, it just reminded me of her. And I thought, I'll let you know, because I think the two of you would be amazing friends.
Oh yeah, it'd be awesome. I got a few guys that are, you know, persons with disabilities, and they speak and they do things. I mean, I got a friend of mine who's got quadriplegia, and he walks on his presentation. You know, he stands up at the end of his presentation and walks. And even the guy, I keep messing up his last name, but Nick, the guy with no arms, no legs.
Yes.
I mean, you think it's challenging doing this. This guy talks about changing diapers. He has no arms and no legs. I mean, with his teeth.
Ew.
Think about that. Okay. I'm telling you, man, life could be a lot more interesting. You could be changing diapers with your teeth.
And I think that's something really important too, is because sometimes I think we get so caught up with what's going on in ourselves, and we don't realize the blessings that we have.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, like, that's when I heard him say that, I don't care what I'm going through. I always remind myself, you could be changing diapers with your teeth.
Yep.
All right. I mean, I just think that's just a great way to, you know, like, honestly, I don't care. I mean, you just try that and see how that worked out for you.
Yeah.
You know, that just.
Sometimes it was hard enough changing diapers with hands.
I know it was for me. Like, I mean, it was hard enough to just, like, I mean, especially when they get fussy and stuff, when you just want to set them outside for just a little while, you know, like, I need a break. But I mean, the way he navigates life, the way he does what he does, I mean, it's just amazing to see how people are just so incredibly resilient, and they have the ability to adjust and do things differently than they've ever done them before. I think that is powerful, and I think it's something to be said about it.
Well, I want to get into the next section so that we have time to share your expertise. So I know that you've come today prepared to really talk to all my entrepreneurs, professionals, and coaches on leverage and how to use that in your life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, leverage is, man, I mean, it's like a superpower or something. And it's something, it's not like I'm the only person on the planet that has it. It's just something that we have that we just don't learn how to use. Like, everything that we've been given by God is a gift.
Yes.
Right? But what we do with that gift is our gift back to him.
True.
And if you deal with any high performers or high achievers, people who are doing, they're always seeking to get more out of themselves. Like, they just want to know how much more they can do and all that. And the key to it is that you can accomplish a lot of things without having to personally do them yourself. And there are certain ways that you can do certain things and create quantum shifts in your life. Like, I mean, there was a period of time where my income was like 10 grand a year because I was on disability.
Yes.
And I doing the things that I did in business, I took my business from 10 grand a year to 10 grand a month and beyond, and moving on. And it's like, that's a quantum shift. So, but the principle that makes it happen is all the same. Like you just, there's a certain amount of things that you do the right way, and it just happens. Like you don't prepare for it. It's just, you like, it's not anything you do. It just happens in your life. And once you experience that a time or two, it starts getting fun. It's like being addicted to roller coasters, except it just never goes down. It just keeps going up, and there's something special about it. So leverage has been very beneficial for me, because when there were certain things that I couldn't do, like I didn't get out here and prospect, like I couldn't go out here, and I wouldn't travel in the world speaking or anything. I had to do it from home.
Yes.
I had to do these things from home. But guess what? It still didn't stop me from building an international client base. It still didn't stop me from training sales teams in 9 different countries. It still didn't stop me from building a radio show that's syndicated across 300 stations around the world. It didn't stop me from doing those things. And I did all of that from a bed-bound state and became a best-selling author. All of that from a bed-bound state. How did I do? It was leverage. It was all leverage. Leveraging adversity, leveraging expertise, leveraging intellect, leveraging my services, like learning how to move things from one form to the next. It's interesting.
Let's stop there for a second, because a lot of my listeners have expertise, but they really don't know how to leverage it. So can you share some really good practical tips on how you leverage your expertise?
I like to use this. I love using this example. If you take grapes, you can take them and pick them up at the store for like maybe 38 cents a pound. Varies from whatever community you're in, but 38 cents a pound. You can take those grapes and pull them off like popcorn, pop them in your mouth. I call that ordinary expertise. Everybody can get it. It's just something we all do. However, you can put those grapes through a process, and you can turn them into seasonings, flavors. You can turn, or you can put them through a high leverage process and put them through a process and turn them into $50 bottles of wine. Plus, you see what I'm saying? So let me give you a little bit more example on that. Right now in the pandemic, when people, speakers, when this thing hit, I got speakers that lost 10 months worth of engagements, because that's how they did. Okay, well, they had their expertise in one form. Well, then I showed them how to turn what they did into virtual trainings that they could be able to deliver. And people say, oh, it's just simple. Just, you don't speak to them online. Speak to them in person, just speak to them online. If you've never given a presentation online, you really don't understand how hard it is to just talk to people that aren't there.
It is not easy.
It is not easy. It is not that difficult. It is not as simple as it sounds. When you're doing a radio show like what you're doing, like if you had to record an episode by yourself, there at some point in time you'll be saying, who are you talking to? Like it just happens.
Even with coming up with things to say, like when we do these episodes, they're about 30 minutes, right? When I do episodes by myself, they're probably 15 minutes because there's no interaction. So if I want longer ones, I actually have to plan out content and kind of create slides and extend it out and time it out to do a 30-minute episode by myself. It took practice.
It does. And literally, I ended up getting too good at it, because then you can give me any topic and I talk about it for an hour. But as my friend Ben Gabe says, I'm from the country, so I will talk about it an hour. So, it's just one of those type of things where when you do those type of things, it just takes some time. It takes some training to get there. But once you learn how to do that, you start mastering, transferring what you do in public to virtual trainings and things of that nature. Now you're communicating your value in a different form. You're
Yes.
doing it differently. But guess what? You're still servicing your customer base. And
Yes.
if you don't know how to do that, your business will fold. I mean, like
Yep.
things like the pandemic happens. If you don't know how to communicate value in a different form, you lose. I mean, tremendously. So this has become a skill set that, having mastered it, having had to do it, I've created mastery in this area. And now my give back, my contribution to the marketplace is showing other people how to do the same thing.
Now, Coach, we're pretty well out of time, but I do want to quickly mention you are writing your book. So maybe take about a minute or two, because we are at our limit, and just talk about that and how people can connect with you.
Well, ironically, I've taken all of the stuff that I've learned in life and the insights that I've gained in business, actionable insights, as you will, and put it into a book called How to Make It to the Top When You Can't Take the Stairs. Going to be filled with amazing stories, but amazing actionable insights on how a person, it doesn't matter whether they have disability or not, that they can be able to take something. If you've ever been paralyzed and you feel paralyzed in your potential and you feel that life has knocked you to your knees, this is going to be the book that you can read to show you how to get back up and start doing the things necessary to move you from point A to point B. And yes, we will be talking about leveraging that book to some degree. If you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on Facebook. Actually, there'll be several links I can provide for you, but on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Coach A.M. Williams. Awesome. And it's in some different forms, but I'll make sure that you guys get that. But it's I'd love to. I provide massive insights on my sites and things of that nature to just provide inspiration, impact, empowerment to people, and would love to have you join me on there and enjoy some of those discussions we have.
I think we're going to be having a lot of discussions together. Yeah. Thank you so much, Coach. This has been an amazing time together, and I know that your story is going to greatly impact our listeners. So this has been Coach A.M. Williams and Kim Thompson-Pinder on the Author to Authority podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on the very next episode. Bye now.
Bye-bye.